How you doing? I'm Kenny Joya. Welcome to another one of my tutorials. In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to record bass in a DAW. So we have a track in front of us here that has no bass on it, but we're kind of lucky because it already has a bunch of things already recorded to it. So it's a little more inspiring to work that way and create a bass guitar part that works around or works with what's already recorded. Now it's not finished, there's no vocals on it, but it does have a few parts down to work off of. We have some live drums, some keyboards, and a couple of guitar tracks. Let's hear what we have. So as we can tell, it really needs bass, or a bass guitar part. So we're going to go through all the steps it takes to achieve that, starting with setting up a DI or direct box for the bass, and using a bass amp. Now using a bass amp isn't absolutely necessary. We're going to do it just because I like the sound of it and the air it creates, but if you don't have a bass amp, don't worry about it. We have some other ways of creating a similar effect. But for this video, we're going to use a DI and a bass amp mixed together. Which brings up the next thing we're going to do, which is checking the phase or polarity of those two tracks. When you mix bass together, in this case the direct box and the amp, you have to make sure those two tracks are in phase, especially with bass, because when things are out of phase or the polarity is reversed, you lose low end, which is kind of important with bass. Then we'll set up proper recording levels going to the DAW. This is also important, making sure we don't overload the DAW or the analog front end. Next, we'll be adding some compression and EQ with plugins. We're going to do this with plugins rather than using outboard gear, just so we can see what's going on, and also just in case you don't have outboard compressors or EQs. I do like to use those things going in, but in this tutorial, we're going to record without those things and use plugins to create the same effect. Then we're going to work on the part or the arrangement for the bass guitar. And you'll see how we can get really creative following the kick drum and the guitars, but at all times, finding a spot for the bass, having it occupy its own unique area in the sonic spectrum. Then we'll go over actually recording the bass and punching in case we make some mistakes, and adding crossfades and such. And once the bass is recorded, we'll add a few more plugins. The first one is a plugin called Bass Amp Room by Softtube. This is great if you don't have an amp, because it'll create the effect of having a bass amp to add to our DI. But in our situation, we'll have one, but we could use this plugin to add some interesting sonic qualities anyway. And next we'll add some distortion to the bass, using a distortion plugin to make it cut through the mix and be more aggressive, and also highlight the top end of the bass without bringing up all the string noise. And finally, we'll go over mixing the bass into the production, using some bussing tricks and some side chaining compression. But we'll get into that later. For now, let's start off by setting up our DI and our bass amp. So let's go.